Sacred Garden Culture Network.
Completely veganically grown within the Kwatamani Sacred Garden culture.
With High Priest Kwatamani, sacred ancestral soothsayer, soul seer, spiritual healer, and revealer, founding father and spiritual chief elder of the Kwatamani First Genesis tribe, the oldest, longest sustained, 100% raw and living, plant-consuming, family community order known. Over half a century and still going strong. This is Nitty Gritty 8.
Open our eyes, open we eyes that we may see, the essence of the soul we truly be.
Greetings. Before we commence this sacred ancestral soul-to-soul journey into communal consciousness that directly relates to why we have come upon this planet Earth at this particular time, doing this earth-shifting change into a new Benu. I want you to reason with this statement. As a species, we are naturally selected to reproduce the essence of humanity as a sustainable consciousness. Mama Earth's climate-changing cycle, extinction of the lower and lesser state of mind. Before we can seriously determine why we, as soul-to-soul beings, that is to say, the sacred few of the few of the few, just happen to be upon Mother Earth during these particular cycles of changing time, we must begin to comprehend that there is also another nature of energy. There should be no doubt that we are talking about that nature of self-deified individualism, that particular state of mental consciousness that actually works to perpetuate conflict, confusion, and chaos in the mind of so many. The chaos becoming the tool of self-destruction as the soul becomes challenged by fantasies, delusions, illusions, and dreamland versions of reality that quickly turn into a deferred dream, or should we say, a pale nightmare. We have to be clear that one can quickly and easily be played upon when one depends upon one's mental consciousness as the end all of all that one is. We have to be able to comprehend that the nature of self-deification have the ability to penetrate the mental psyche of thought and reasonings that causes one to take certain actions which do indeed prove to be detrimental to one's mental, physical, and spiritual health and well-being. We're talking about the mental trauma of those who have went through various levels and degrees of stress and strain on the brain. We're talking about a nature that preys upon the mental consciousness of those who have went through drama and trauma and other kinds of mental strains and stress on the brain that allows entry by an energy opposed to the soul-to-soul relationship of that being. Remember now, man, he and she is a product of his or her environment, a victim of circumstances, so to say, and the habits that are created within that cycle of being a victim of circumstances happen to be very hard to break. Therefore, one could say that within a culture opposed to divine order, that is to say, a hunting, herding, warring culture that thrives and survives off of sexual violation, violence, war, and crime, would automatically create mental, physical, and spiritual stress and strain and anxiety And these are the points that quickly moves to trauma and drama of the mind. What I'm saying is this. Detoxing and purging to heal is an essential element of simply being able to come to a state so one can begin an upward spiral movement into divine order. In brief, one must become keenly aware of the nature of energy that is voiced inside of one's head. One must be aware of the fact that one can become a channel of energy opposed to one's own existence. Being the voice of opposition is a critical matter, a matter that is continuous and ongoing. We think about certain things like Ouija boards and other kinds of factors, and it becomes sort of a fantasy in the mind of so many who say those things are not real. However, the voice that diametrically opposes the nature of divine order is a real matter. And therefore, if one is not keenly aware, one will indeed become the voice opposing divine order. And one's attitude, value, behavior, and beliefs will indeed become a reflection of that opposing nature of energy in thought, in reasoning, and in actions, no matter how subtle. At this particular point in time, we must come into a whole soul relationship. Therefore, the objective of Nitty-Gritty 8 is, in fact, to bring a greater sense of clarity about our primary goal and objective as Green Earth Solar Conscious beings. Our primary goal objectively is to selectively breed, seed, and feed a new consciousness of humanity devoted to upholding and maintaining the holistic living principles, morals, and values of divine social, economic, family, community order as a way of life. A Green Earth Solar Conscious way of life that thrives and survives on forwarding every offspring and vibration of divine social, economic, family, community order into the generation next. When we say Green Earth Solar Conscious beings, we are not talking about beings from outer space. We're actually talking about beings from the inner sphere of divine order. Therefore, we wish to make it very clear that we are focused on the sacred few of the few of the few of the few, who wholeheartedly and sincerely seek holistic living lifestyle change. Please make note, when we call for the sacred ancestral resurrection of Green Earth Solar Consciousness, we are actually calling for the sacred ancestral soul-to-soul resurrection of the divine children of the sun and the sacred garden culture from which we come as whole life consumers of the fruits of the tree of life, the raw, living fruits, vegetables, seeds, nuts, herbs, and spice, while at the same time giving honor, thanks, praise, and appreciation to the most supreme, seen and unseen, masculine and feminine essence of earth, wind, rain, and sun. We must have guidance, divine guidance and protection, and it must be affectionately nurtured. That is saying clearly that we must emerge out of the essence of masculine and feminine energy, and it must be a bonding union that has the ability to get past the riffraff and all the toxic manifestations of disorder, geared and designed to maintain a divided, conquered, and separated state of being between man, he and she. In other words, we must have a sense of eldership, of leadership to get us where we need to be as divine children of the sun, and to maintain the forward movement of that sacred garden culture presence, so that we, as mental, physical, and spiritual beings, can in fact interconnect soul to soul to enjoy the pleasure and the joy and the satisfaction of this holistic living experience, seen and unseen. As the ancestors say, good things do not come easy. Likewise, divine things do not come without wholehearted, sincere, dedicated work. When embarking upon this challenge, one must comprehend there are going to be so many difficulties. There are going to be so many interruptions, interferences, applying every way and means to maintain the divisive nature so as to consume the sacred ancestral soulful essence of a being. Within our ancient Kemetic text, we call it Isfit, the soul sucker. When we look at that soul-sucking nature of toxic disorder, we see a nature that has possessed living, walking beings upon this earth. When taking the challenge of inspiring soul-to-soul resurrection, one will encounter phases and stages of opposition. One will encounter a soul seeking to be rescued. However, that soul might not have enough strength to walk the dotted line necessary for rescue. At the same time, the divine natural innate duty, obligation, responsibility of one engaged in this process of soul-to-soul resurrection must be to throw out a lifeline. That lifeline will oftentimes get so close to the being that they're actually able to touch it. Yet, that divisive nature, given a few extra moments, can actually cause that soul to sink into oblivious nothingness in a moment's notice. These are very hurtful feelings. But again, as I say, it is not each and every being who seeks soul rescue that will be able to be rescued. Even those coming out of one's birthing cycle, one's DNA, those who are first line, those who are deep and wholeheartedly within a process that should allow that being simple and easy recovery, because he or she is surrounded with the nature of energy necessary for whole life change, necessary to provide an avenue of successful resurrection. Yet, the various kinds of programs actually indoctrinated within the mindset of a being can cause that being to manifest so much disruption, interruption, so many challenges, opposition, such stubborn reasoning. Oftentimes it will appear as though one is dealing with a possessed being who is sent forward to cause conflict, confusion, and chaos. And this being can be so close to one. However, within that soul-to-soul mission, one must comprehend, if it don't fit, don't force it. Equally, one must comprehend, if it fit, be with it in divine order. This must be kept as the primary principle within the soul-to-soul recovery process. What must be comprehended by those on the sojourn of recovery and those who are focused on leading, guiding the sojourn of recovery, there is a nature of energy so precious, most supreme, unseen upon the scene that actually gives one a shield of protection so long as one stay with the principles, morals, and values of divine order, divine social, economic, family, community order, recognizing that there will be no movement by no one until or unless one embarks upon a holistic living process of detoxing, purging, so as to heal from a nature opposed to one's holistic living existence. A nature that is geared and designed to suck the life energy out of that being. And being clear that the life energy of a being is the essence of soul. We must then comprehend that each and every being has a soul. However, we must also comprehend that there are beings who have a weak and depleted soul, so much so that the being do not have enough strength to struggle, because that being has been so dominated, so controlled, and so ruled by that oppositional nature of self-deified individualism that, in fact, the being has become a primary agent of soul depletion. We must comprehend that we must raise up the whole soul energy of each and every being that we encounter who has that life-infusing nature within. For it is the sacred few of the few of the few of the few that will survive this oppositional attack. The survival will be from the essence of soul.
Open our eyes. Mirror, mirror on the wall. Who I see staring back at me is just a surface identity. Gotta look deep within, deeper than skin. Open our eyes.
We have actually forgotten that we were unseen before we were seen. We're actually forgotten that that child that entered the womb of that she was not seen, but the energies, let's call it the electromagnetic energies, came together in a oneness and created a doorway for an unseen soul to emerge, preparing to enter a sojourn so that we could accelerate forward into that most supreme essence, walking this earth as souls embodied upon the physical scene as offsprings of gods and goddesses. But once there was that disconnection, the disobedience that occurred as a result of focusing on the physical manifestation of the individualistic self, disconnected from the wholeness of sacred ancestral soul-to-soul communal movement of who we be within the supreme circle of whole life energy. Thinking and reasoning when we are talking and we're comparing notes on things that actually do not relate to why we are here upon this earth in the first place, but rather relate to how one has come to think and reason and act within a parallel that is opposed to the existence of divine order. So if we interchange within an energy that is opposed to divine order, it must become clear that we are engaging in the energy of disorder. Disorder is toxic. So when we say toxic disorder, please, this is not a debate. We're talking the facts of life and how one engages in one or the other nature of energy. That's right, two different natures of energy. One encoded to empower the soul, the other hell-bent on mind control. Let truth be told. We must begin to understand the nature of communications that occur from the unseen. We cannot rely on the mind alone and how the brain functions, because a malnourished brain will function with malnourished thinking and reasoning and actions. And the mind of thought will actually function based on the master program that's being ran on you. And if you're caught up within a master program geared and designed to keep you mentally, physically, and spiritually enslaved to a nature diametrically opposed to your existence, there's absolutely no way that you will have the opportunity to connect with the most high essence of who you be as man, he, and she. This is the dilemma that we're dealing with. So busy focused on the physical manifestation of stuff and things and the games that are played in a parallel where a man, he, can actually look at the feminine she and not have any kind of comprehension of her mental networking and decide, she's so beautiful, based upon beauty standards that have been established within a program that ignores the soulful essence of who one be and simply focus on some physical characteristic and trait that emerge out of a predatory mindset, where the unknown conquest brings the greatest level and degree of lustful desire.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who I see staring back at me is just a surface identity. Gotta look deep within, deeper than skin. Open our eyes.
And the feminine has her own strategy, though she is very vulnerable because she has become unaware of the fact that she is communal by nature. Due to social programming, her natural selection process for the masculine has become very questionable. Thus, domestic violence and abuse continue to take her in a downward spiral that adversely affects the generation next. As a matter of fact, it has become irrelevant as to whether it is he or she. The only thing that seems to matter is the serving of the self-asserted, individualistic nature and the fantasies, delusions, illusions, and dreamland versions of sexual pleasure as an emphasis in the establishment of a relationship. This point of reference overrides the true, holistic living reason for why we are here upon this planet in the first place.
Open our eyes.
There are individuals who cannot comprehend why they cannot unlock the gate to exit the parallel of their circumstances. They ignore and disobey the principles of karma. They do not have any desire to interrelate with the sacred laws of Ma'at. They're only thinking about the I, me, my, mine syndrome, and then they cannot comprehend why they're unable to connect with the inner networkings of soul-to-soul relationships. It's very simple, because one has locked one's own being out. You see, there are two different natures of energy in every walk of existence: divine order or toxic reality, supreme truth or self-deified fallacy. Thus, when you say, I'm walking with spirit, it is not what you say but what you do that tells the holistic living story about what you are truly walking with. And it is very easy to walk with that nature that diametrically opposes divine order. As a matter of fact, it seems to be far more popular because one can make false claims of one's power, one's abilities, and etc., and one can profess any level and degree of word sound that one desires. We have a gift. The gift is when we're able to interconnect with each other, seen and unseen. This is actually what this presentation is all about. A collective sojourn is what we must be about. You see, we have been divided, conquered, separated, and ruled as soul-to-soul beings. And as a result of that, there's a broken state of sojourning that is occurring. The objective is to get to a state of unified oneness. Most individuals truly in their heart and soul think, when they hear about a soul's journey, that it's an individualistic trip to where they don't even think about. Sometimes the individuals who are actually within that kind of trip and vibration identify themselves as being of a higher self. And that has no reference at all in a soul-to-soul soul journey. Collective oneness, unified oneness. And a lot of people do not want to hear this, but we're talking about collective, communal soul relationships that will produce higher peace conscious thought and reasonings and actions, divine actions, unified oneness, the bond that ties masculine and feminine energy into the holistic living one of who we be. One must comprehend that it is impossible for us to deal with the whole life logistics of our presence if we do not deal with the fact that we are brain, body, and spirit of soul. Once we can see that, well, yes, that's true, and most people can say, oh, I see what he's talking about. Yes, that's true. We brain, body, and spirit. The thing that tends to be ignored is that we are brain, body, and spirit within a collective nature of energy, divine order, or toxic reality, supreme truth, or self-deified fallacy. And our objective must be to align with the holistic living presence of divine order. But that requires a lot of work, a lot of detoxing and purging to heal from those cold, pale, toxic ordeals, unbeknowing of the fact that the day would come that we all will have to deal with that. You see, that's a physical presentation, but the disconnection from the soulful essence spreading like a plague throughout humanity, that's a very serious infraction. And that infraction is the greatest challenge that we're having right now. And for the few, my advice is to do every single thing that you can to connect once again to the unified bond of soul-to-soul movement. That's going to be very difficult, because first things first is detoxing and purging to heal from the cold, pale nature of that toxic ordeal. The second process, after detoxing and purging to heal, you can't heal unless you're refueling. In other words, one must put into the body temple holistic living energy when the process of detoxing and purging to heal has become a reality. Because as that toxic energy is purged out of the body, the fueling process of whole life energy must be put back in. Divine guiding and protecting, nurturing, affectionate energy that somehow bonded soul-to-soul movement. One has a doorway, and that doorway opens for quick and fast movement. But we have to comprehend that the nature that diametrically opposed divine order, always seeking and searching to block the pathway of holistic living, soul-to-soul energy movements. Regardless of those blockades and barricades, the divine and sacred few have a holistic living duty, obligation, and responsibility to focus on resurrecting sacred ancestral soul-to-soul relationships within divine social, economic, family, community order.
Open up.